We don't iterate, we interrogate.
Why did men, 50 years apart, two completely different worlds?
Two men, 50 years apart, two completely different worlds. One a wooden dojo in Hong Kong, the other a steel factory floor in the Nevada desert. One trained his body until it broke. The other rebuilt rockets after they exploded on live television. They never met. They never spoke the same language of craft. One threw punches, the other threw satellites into orbit. But strip away the martial arts and the machinery, and you find the exact same engine running underneath. An obsession so total, so consuming, that ordinary people around them quietly wondered if it would eventually destroy them. This is the story of Bruce Lee and Elon Musk, and the dangerous, brilliant idea they both bet everything on. Most people think success is about talent. A lucky gene, a gift you're born with. Bruce Lee didn't believe that. Neither does Elon Musk. Both men, in their own eras, rejected the idea that greatness is inherited. Instead, they treated their entire lives as an experiment in one question. What happens to a human being who refuses, completely, permanently, to accept their limits? Bruce Lee was a sickly, undersized teenager in Hong Kong who got into street fights he often lost. Elon Musk was a bullied, awkward kid in South Africa who buried himself in books because the real world felt hostile. Neither started as the icon we remember. That's the part their highlight reels never show you, and it's the part that matters most. Bruce Lee was born in San Francisco in 1940 and raised in Hong Kong, where he trained in Wing Chun under Ip Man as a teenager. He was small, restless, and constantly fighting, not out of arrogance, but because he was trying to prove something to himself. When his father sent him to the United States at 18, partly to keep him out of trouble, Lee arrived with almost nothing except a growing obsession with understanding why martial arts worked, not just how to perform them. He didn't just want to be a fighter. He wanted to reverse engineer human movement itself, studying fencing, boxing, philosophy, and physics to build something new. That obsession eventually became Jeet Kune, his own martial art built on the idea of discarding anything that didn't work, no matter how traditional or sacred it was considered. Elon Musk's path looks nothing like this on the surface. Born in Pretoria, South Africa, in 1971, he was an intensely bookish child who taught himself computer programming and sold his first piece of software as a preteen. He moved to Canada, then the United States, chasing opportunities his home country couldn't offer. After co-founding and selling early internet companies, Musk didn't retire on the winnings. He poured nearly everything he had into 3 deeply unproven ideas at once: electric cars, reusable rockets, and, after Tesla, solar energy at scale. 2 very different centuries. 2 completely different industries. The same underlying pattern, an unwillingness to accept the world as it currently works. 4. The main conflict. Here's where both stories turn painful. Bruce Lee's body eventually became the battlefield. He trained with an intensity that bordered on self-destruction. Hours of repetition, strict caloric control, and a refusal to ever feel satisfied with his physical condition. Friends and collaborators noted that he pushed himself relentlessly, chasing a version of physical mastery that seemed to have no ceiling. In 1973, at just 32 years old, Bruce Lee died suddenly, a death officially attributed to a reaction to medication, ending his life at the exact moment global stardom was arriving. Elon Musk's conflict played out publicly, in a different arena entirely. By 2008, both Tesla and SpaceX were weeks from bankruptcy at the same time. SpaceX had failed 3 rocket launches in a row. Tesla was burning through cash faster than it could raise it. Musk later described funneling nearly all of his remaining personal fortune into keeping both companies alive simultaneously, a bet that, by his own account, nearly broke him financially and emotionally. 2 men, in 2 different centuries, staring into the same abyss. The real cost of obsession. Not the inspirational poster version. The version where you might lose everything, your body, your fortune, your family life, chasing something the rest of the world hasn't caught up to yet. Most people don't know that Bruce Lee was rejected by mainstream Hollywood for years before Enter the Dragon, largely passed over for leading roles despite pitching original concepts, including an early version of what would become Show Kung Fu, which was ultimately produced with a different lead actor. Lee had to fight for recognition in an industry that didn't yet know what to do with him. Most people also don't know that Elon Musk was nearly forced out of Tesla's public narrative entirely in its early years. He wasn't the original founder of the company, but joined shortly after its founding, investing heavily and eventually taking over as CEO during one of its most fragile periods, a fact that has been the subject of public dispute over the years. Both men, in other words, spent years being underestimated by the exact industries that would later celebrate them. Why does this pattern keep repeating in high obsession achievers? Psychologists who study elite performers often point to a concept called productive obsession, a mental state where the person's identity becomes so fused with their work that stopping feels more painful than continuing, even under extreme stress. This isn't the same as simple hard work. It's closer to an internal engine that doesn't have an off switch. For Bruce Lee, that engine expressed itself physically. Training became almost a spiritual practice, a way of proving to himself daily that he was becoming more than his limitations. For Musk, that same engine expresses itself operationally, an insistence on first principles thinking, breaking every problem down to raw physics and cost, refusing to accept that's how it's always been done as a valid answer. The danger, in both cases, is the same. When your identity is inseparable from your mission, there's no natural stopping point. That's the trait that builds empires. It's also the trait that can quietly destroy the person carrying it. Put their philosophies side by side, and the overlap is striking. Bruce Lee's most famous piece of advice was to be water, to remain formless and adaptable, taking the shape of whatever container you're poured into, rather than rigidly clinging to one fixed method. Musk's own operating philosophy, thinking from first principles instead of by analogy, pushes toward the same destination from a different direction. Don't accept the shape you were given. Question the container itself. Where they differ is scale. Bruce Lee's obsession was inward, mastering one man's body and mind as completely as possible. Musk's obsession is outward, mastering entire industries, entire supply chains, entire planet's worth of infrastructure. But the psychological fuel is identical. Neither man could tolerate the sentence, "This is just how things are." What can you actually take from two men whose lives look nothing like yours? First, talent is overrated and repetition is underrated. Bruce Lee didn't become dangerous because of natural gifts. He became dangerous because he was willing to repeat the same motion thousands of times until it became instinct. Musk didn't build reusable rockets on the first try. SpaceX failed launch after launch before succeeding. Second, obsession without boundaries is a double-edged sword. Both stories are inspiring, but neither is without cost. Real ambition requires you to notice when the engine that drives you is starting to consume things you're not willing to lose. Third, question a container. Whatever normal looks like in your field, in your body, in your career. Ask whether that's actually a law of nature, or if it's just an old habit nobody has challenged yet. Bruce Lee never got to see how far his philosophy would travel. He died before Enter the Dragon made him a global legend, before Jeet Kune reshaped modern martial arts and mixed martial arts as we know them today. Elon Musk is still writing his chapter, still one failed launch or one bad year away from another version of 2008. Neither of their stories are finished, because obsession like theirs doesn't really have an ending. It has a body of work, and it has a cost. The question this documentary leaves you with isn't could I do what they did? It's simpler and harder. What container are you still trapped inside, simply because no one has told you it's optional to leave? If this comparison changed how you see obsession, discipline, and greatness, subscribe, because we're breaking down the minds behind history's most driven people, one legend at a time. Comment one word. Are you built more like Bruce Lee or more like Elon Musk? And if you want the next mind dissected, tell us who to compare next.